I was told the stove is hot when it's red, but I had to touch it to make sure.
Yeah. Hmm.
And like you hear like all the various like documentaries and whatnot about addiction and whatnot.
Yeah.
Um, and I told myself, well, if I gotta know, I have to see. And
Hmm.
then I knew, and I saw.
Welcome to a conversation with a friend. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this.
Of course, it's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. Do you mind just introducing yourself to start off?
Sure. Okay. Well, I'm Brock Dylan Mirtle. Last Mirtle, not Y. Um, I I'm a resident, lifelong resident of Calgary. I was born and raised here. Um, yeah, I don't know, and I've had maybe not. Um, I've had an interesting life, I suppose.
Oh, what's made it interesting?
Um, I don't know. Well, I like to think it's interesting anyway.
I'm
Um,
sure it is. I have zero doubts, so go for it.
oh gosh, that's that's just usually what I tell people. I don't know. I am currently employed and have been employed for like about the last. Oh God. Oh no. I think it's been 7 years. Uh, as a plumber, and it's a job, and I get money for it, and that's about it. But I don't know. I was a published poet when I was 8 years old. I used to play the bagpipes. Um, I've done a little bit of traveling, which is quite nice. I've um sorry, I just had a complete brain fart there
No,
right
no,
off the
no,
bat.
dude. It happens to all of us. Trust me, it's human.
Yeah. I don't know. I've a very oh shoot. I'm trying to think of the word. Very hungry appetite, but there's a
Mm.
more articulate, intelligent sounding word than hungry. That
Ambitious?
is no, it's not ferocious. Maybe ferocious. Yeah,
Ferocious.
ferocious.
Okay. Hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I had a terrible speech impediment when I was younger. I had to go through 5 years of speech therapy in order to correct that. And it just so happened that my speech therapy class took place during like writing and spelling when I was in elementary school, like
Hmm.
before I went to the science school. And so as a result, my spelling and writing is atrocious and basically hasn't improved since I was in grade three.
Wow.
I also well another like problem with that, like kind of compounding that, is I was diagnosed with a learning disability was when I was 11 or 12,
Hmm.
and I can't remember exactly what it is, but it's related to dyslexia.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Um, yeah, I've a problem like sounding out words and whatnot in my head and whatnot. Like I can't like conceptualize it really, and it also causes me to have like difficulty with math and whatnot. Um, though I recall when I was doing like my barrage of tests to see like what was up, because like I was recommended to take this by the teachers at the science school at that point, because my skills in certain areas were just noticeably like deficient. And but one thing that kind of the main thing that stuck with me at when I took these tests and stuff is that the examiner who or, examiner is probably not the right word, but whoever was conducted these tests with me noted that I placed very highly in like way beyond the level I was supposed to be at in a lot of other areas, and
Hmm.
so I don't know, like that's what I latched onto, and so I had an immediately inflated self worth when I was quite young.
Dude, you also published a poem in that period, right? Like that's amazing.
Well, I mean, well, it's when I was in when I was in grade three, I
Hmm.
believe. Well, it's just there was a Canada-wide poetry contest going on, and they used to do this every year and stuff, and they would have I believe they'd have a different name for the book every year. My particular year, it was oh gosh, shooting fireworks and shooting stars. It was called, and basically it was anyone from grade 1 to grade 9. Or it might have been no, it was grade 1 to 9, or grade 1 to 12 rather. And basically, the principal of the school was at the time Clem Gardner, which actually that same building was later bought by the science school. So I went to that building for preschool to grade 9. I lived 2 blocks from it. um Basically we had done like a poetry like a workshop and whatnot. Like we had to write a series of poems, so we were encouraged to like pick our favorite or our best one. And I submitted mine, and I was one of 500 finalists in the whole country. I peaked really early at 8.
I wouldn't call that peaking, but you definitely reached the top of a pinnacle.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's funny because like well at the time I had no idea, but my grandfather has actually he published a book of poetry back in like the 70s or something, and he actually I guess it was about probably 8 or 10 years ago he published another one, but which I had no idea. So I guess the Myrtles are a very poetic people.
I love that. I love that. So, when did you start the bagpipes? Was that at the same time, like when you were younger, or?
No, oh yeah, I started them when I was in I believe grade 7.
Mm.
And I carried that on until grade 10, where I decided I wanted to play football more than I wanted to play bagpipes, which is a choice that I made.
I think that's a part of growing up, right? Like we make certain, I guess,
Yeah, like little did I know that, like, of course, at the time I didn't realize that bagpipers get paid big bucks to perform and stuff. But so in retrospect, I kind of wish I kept up with that. But like owning a set of bagpipes is really expensive. Like even like the bass, like the cheapest, worst, crappiest bagpipes you get, it's thousands of dollars.
holy
And
smokes.
and bagpipes are kind of weird because it's kind of like a cult. Because you so every if you're part of like a registered pipe band, they have to be affiliated with like the Great Highland Bagpipes Association of Scotland, which is like a minister, like it's a position, or it might not be a position in government, but it's highly bagpipes are highly regulated and stuff. Like for instance, before I even got to touch a set of bagpipes, I had to practice on what's called a chanter, which is just like the mouthpiece. I had to practice on that for an entire year, and then after that, I had to send my band leader made a recording, like a video recording of me. I had I'm trying to remember. I had to play uh, 3 variations of the scale, and I want to say 2 complete songs with little to no mistakes. And then then my band leader had to take that video, in physical tape, and mail it to Scotland so that it could be approved by the like Great Highland Bagpipe Council. And so they're
Jesus.
like, yeah. And so like I did that for 3 years, and I don't know, it was a lot of fun. Because like I have a I'm 3/4 Scottish.
Mhm.
Like in fact, like my great grandfather was born in Inverness, uh, which is considered like the capital of the Highlands, if you will.
Oh, that's so cool.
Even though ultimately, if you go back in time, if you go back far enough, the Mirtles were actually a border clan. Like we were border reavers, which basically means we lived near the English border, and every once in a while we'd steal over the border and take back a bunch of cattle and loot.
Oh, that's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Dude, so when you
Well,
mhm.
oh, oh,
Oh, go,
you go.
oh, well, I was just gonna ask. So when you traveled, was that one of the places you went back to then?
Yes, it was. Like, though I went there. Actually, I went there when I was still playing bagpipes. Actually, I went there. Oh, I'm trying to. I guess just before I started my second year, actually,
Mhm.
and which was yeah, I went there with my grandparents. Um, and like we landed in Glasgow, which, if you ever go to Scotland, you can safely avoid Glasgow.
Oh, wait, why avoid it?
Oh, it's just not a great place. Like, right off the bat, it was bad because so we just spent like hours and hours and hours flying and whatnot. Finally, we get into Glasgow and whatnot, and we go outside of the airport and to like where there's like a bus ring. And so it's like I'm 14 at the time. My younger brother is 12, and my elderly grandparents are in their like late 60s.
Hmm.
And so we go. There's like a bus loop, and like we go to one of the buses, and we're like, "Hey, this is the address of our hotel. Do you go near it?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, jump on. I'll tell you when to get off." So then we ride the bus for I don't know half hour, something like that. It's like, "Oh yeah, get off here." So then we get off. So then we get off, and I don't know. It was like I don't know. Like Mary Poppins. Like it was just like this skid row of like turn of the century, the last century,
Hmm.
houses and whatnot, and Glasgow's. I'm trying to. I believe its nickname is also the Black City because there's a lot of like there was a lot of industry and like a lot of trains there, and
Hmm.
so like everything's there's blackened with soot. And so it's like we walked into a time, like we just walked out a time machine, and like the bus driver gave us a vague direction. Like, oh, walk that way, you'll find it. And like we're like walking around, and it's getting dark at this point. By the way, so there's like these young teenager and like a kid and like two elderly people are walking along, and there's we pass by like there's a pub and like a radio station's like doing a promotion outside of it, and one of the guys behind like one of the desks and stuff is like, are you guys lost? Like, what are you doing? Why are you here? And we explain the situation to him. It's like, oh, that's on the other side of town. Like when we tell him the address, and so thankfully he called us a cab, and it was all figured out. But and then we finally get to the hotel, and we're just exhausted, so we go to sleep. And we wake up for like breakfast in the morning and whatnot, and I always like to read the newspaper, especially when I was younger, because I always wanted to be older than I was, and so I knew older people read newspaper, and you can learn what's going on in the world from the newspaper, and there's cartoons. So I go to like where the newspapers are in like the cafeteria area or whatever of this hotel, and right on the front page is like serial killer strikes again. It's like seventh victims claimed, and like, oh my
Jesus.
god, yeah. So that was interesting.
I can't imagine reading that as a kid and being like, what the hell just happened?
I'm like, this is a hole in the ground. Um, but and then after that, we were only there for a day, and like took a train and like visited some relatives and stuff who still live
Yeah.
in Scotland,
Hmm.
and did all the. We were in Edinburgh, which was incredible. Like right when we got off the train, immediately there was a guy up on the platform playing the pipes, which I really appreciated. And yeah, we went to Inverness, saw like where the old Mirtle bakery used to be way back when.
Wait,
Because
sorry, is there a lot of your stuff still there? Like the Myrtle family history and
no,
stuff? No, okay.
oh yes, there's quite a bit of the history there, but the
Hmm.
bakery is long gone.
Oh, right. Okay.
Um, and like the whole reason why I'm here is because my great grandfather didn't want to be a baker, so he's like, well, there's universities out in Western Canada, a lot of land. I'm gonna head there. Which is still a similar story to my Norwegian part of my family,
Hmm.
which after the same trip actually, we went to Norway, and which was even more incredible actually. And there we met like other people, other relatives of mine from Canada and stuff. It was kind of like a mini reunion there. Like we got to go to like my Norwegian family's like ancestral farm that they've had since like the 1500s, and like got to meet like tons of like Norwegian relatives and stuff. And it was that was absolutely incredible because like I've always since I can remember I've always loved history and whatnot. And I'm also have a little bit of narcissism, so there's no more history nor interesting to me than my own. Yeah, to be able to go to this farm and stuff where generations of my ancestors, the air felt heavy. Like I felt like the weight of history on me when I was there. And there's like a big rocky kind of outcropping in the middle. There's three main houses and stuff on the farm, and right in the middle there's this big rocky outcropping, and there's like kind of a natural seat in the center of it. And so like it took us like 2 hours to get there from Oslo because it's up in Uppland. It's called near a little tiny hamlet called
Yeah.
On
Hmm.
Ransfjord, which is the longest lake in Norway. It's way up in the mountainous part of Norway and stuff. About an hour south of Lillehammer for anyone who listens to this who knows geography, the Norwegian geography. And yeah, there's a natural seat in this rocky outcropping, so I sat there like just to take a break. And one of my Norwegian relatives comes up to me and is like, "Oh, generations of your family have sat on that seat there." Because and it's a joke among like kind of us Norwegian diaspora.
Yeah.
Um, how Norwegians you got to alternate if you go low and high as a little sing songy. Yeah,
Dude, that sounds amazing. I sense so much
yeah.
pride in this. Like, I know you were calling this narcissistic, but like, legitimately, I don't know how many people go back and look up their history and stuff and really try to
Oh yeah.
understand where they come from.
Oh, like this is just that's just been me since as long as I can remember. Like I've always been fascinated by, well, who am I? Like where
Hmm.
did I come? Where did the people who make me come from? Like
Hmm.
that has always been interesting to me. And like I suppose I downplay, like I don't know, I try to downplay like a lot of myself to
Hmm.
narcissism and stuff because like I never want to ever come across or seem like I'm full of myself.
Okay.
and
Uh,
and, and that's been something that's also like since junior high basically,
mhm.
like a junior, like a big thing is like starting I felt it the most clear in grade 8 where I realized in social studies and English I was just kind of like head and shoulders above everyone else. And I'm like, oh god, like I get and understand all this, and like these people are like struggling, grasping at straws. And like that kind of turned into like a larger problem in high school,
Mm.
where where all of a sudden I was thrust back into the public system after being at the charter school for years, and I was stupefied like when I first got to high school,
Yeah.
like just the difference of level, like oh god, I was like, did you guys go to school? Were you just dropped here?
So you felt like you were like you've learned a lot more than your
Well,
peers.
because the big the cores of like English and especially social studies are
Hmm.
just things that are naturally interesting to me.
Yeah.
Like like at when I was at the science school and stuff, I read every single book that was in the history section,
Hmm.
every single one, a lot of them multiple times. And then like I did the same thing when I got to high school.
Yeah.
Like I tore through the history section of the library and whatnot. Like I can remember in particular, I took out this book. It was called Life on a Medieval Barony, and it had last been taken out, according to the slip in the back, in 1974.
Jeez, holy.
Yeah,
Um,
which is I'll continue.
no, 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 no. I was just gonna ask, out of curiosity, why didn't you end up like, did you pursue history after high school then, or?
I probably would have liked to, but the problem is I really screwed the pooch in grade 12
Mm,
because by the time I got to grade 12, I was just completely burnt out. Like in any subject, like English and social studies, like I've like, it was blowing people out. Teachers would ask me questions, like which oh gosh, is like it certainly is a good way to give yourself a inflated sense of ego.
right.
Um, and like I was also like phenomenal at English. Like English like came very naturally to me.
Yeah.
And then like I was always fairly good at science, and I always just hated math, so I didn't care. Actually, I only took math 14 and 24. Thinking about it, like I learned how to do my taxes. That was my math. Um,
That's beyond what most people know now. So
I
like,
know, right, and it's funny. Like I don't know, like like people say like, oh, why didn't school teach me that and teach me this? And I'm like, well, you just had to take the dumb math, and it taught you. Um, I also recall career and
applications.
life man. I also recall learning a lot from career and life management that a lot of people didn't seem to take in. But anyways, in grade 12, so like I was so done because I wasn't challenged at anything I wanted to be challenged at, and I just was disinterested and didn't care about anything else. Plus, so I'd been into like heavy metal and stuff before that, but then I started to like kind of like meet more people, metalheads, if you will,
Hmm.
and especially female metalheads, and some who became some of my best friends. And I realized like I would rather spend my time smoking cigarettes in the alley by the school than wasting my time and stuff. So as a result, I passed with exactly 100 credits, just skidded across the finish line barely, but all my grades and all my marks were basically trash. So I did apply to go to university, but they're like, no. And yeah, then I kind of. Oh, and I also another big hurdle in that all was my dad had decided he had to take it upon himself to get me a job before I was even done the final exams. Like I had a job in high school. I
Hmm.
worked at a full serve Husky gas station, but I don't know. My dad figured that there was no way. But I just recently quit that because I cut my hours in half, and so I'm like, well, screw you guys. Um, and so my dad decided to take it upon himself as like, well, my there's no way I have to do everything for my goddamn son, something like that. Anyway, I think he did it out of general like place of wanting to provide something for me, a career, and like give me like maybe a stronger foundation than he left high school with. So I had a job at Hoover Mechanical, which is a plumbing company, before I was even done my final exams.
Wow. I can't imagine managing all that at that age, right? So that's
Oh, and
especially plumbing.
well, and it was like a real kick in the teeth to me too, because like I don't know, like I was out there like putting in resumes and whatnot, and like when my dad did that, like I really internalized that really negatively for a very long time.
Hmm.
Like, okay, my dad doesn't think I'm capable of doing anything, because like my dad like very much like kind of like made his own career and stuff, or like made himself, I suppose, and whatnot. Like took a very different path than my grandfather.
Yeah.
Like my grandfather has a doctorate in education
Hmm.
and is incredibly intelligent. And my dad never went to. He went to SATE for plumbing eventually. Like he didn't do that till I was about to be born because he realized like, oh no, I've got responsibilities now. I can't just work seismic in the winter and go on pogey all summer anymore. And so yeah, so then I remember my first day, I didn't know a goddamn thing. And all construction stuff is done in imperial, like inches and whatnot. Like I didn't know how long an inch was. Like I learned metric. Like and like there's like just a lot of like simple things. Like I didn't know what a washer was, just stuff like that. And had to learn like basically an entire new dialect. Um, when I was plumbing and stuff, and then I had the added kind of weight because of I was my dad's son,
Yeah.
and my dad he's worked for every major plumbing company in the city. He's at various points he's been like jobs like managers and stuff. Like everyone knew my dad, and like my dad's very competent and skilled in what he does. And so like I remember like the first day like I'm assigned to work with someone. I was like, oh, I bet your dad's been like teaching you like stuff like in the last couple of weeks leading up to this. I'm like, nope. He just told me he got me this job.
Dude,
Okay, actually, no. He did give me one piece of advice,
yeah.
which I found it hilarious then, and I find it hilarious now. He's like, "Oh, it's job sites. People can be like kind of rough and crude and whatnot. So, if anyone makes fun of you or says anything, you always make sure you have a comeback. And I'm like, Dad, I just spent 3 years in high school. Don't worry, I got that down.
I'm sorry, but that's freaking hilarious.
It is funny. It is funny. I chuckle.
Okay, I gotta ask because you just mentioned that your dad it didn't seem like he was I guess appreciative of your talents or didn't have that much faith in you.
Oh yeah, no.
Um, but that along with the fact that like everything you're talking about from history and stuff in the Mirtle family legacy, that it sounds to me like you have like very, very strong family values, right? And that's what you like learning about, your family, your growth, where all of that came from. Correct me if I'm wrong
Yeah,
on any of this. So, like to me, when I hear something like that, it sounds like there's a bigger like that kick in the teeth sounds even bigger than it would for most people because there's so
yeah.
much love and resonation there, right? So, has that relationship changed now, like since high school, like where?
Well, I work for him, so
Yeah.
uh, it's gone through. I don't know. I suppose like ups and downs and whatnot. Like there's definitely a good chunk of like my early 20s where I really resented my father
Hmm.
and whatnot. And like as time goes on and you get older, you start to kind of realize things and whatnot. And like I understand where he was coming from then, and like I don't know. I learned very young that like my dad's not someone to reason with.
Hmm. Um,
So
with that being said, if you had like okay, I gotta ask first. Do you want kids in the future or in like your own family?
yes, yeah. I really do actually. At some
Okay.
point, not maybe not tomorrow, but maybe a couple days from now.
Yeah. Well, for them, based on how you've been raised and how you've seen the world, which is like this, again, I find it really beautiful how much you correspond with your family legacy and how much that accelerated your growth in certain areas, especially given the struggles that you talked about in the other areas, right? And I don't think a lot of people see it that way sometimes, where it's like if they're bad at something, they just assume they're bad, but you like accelerated and push yourself in other ways which frankly, bravado, right? Um, but in regards to that, if you had kids, like, is there any like teachings or stuff you would do different than what your parents did with you, or do you think that it would
Oh
be?
yeah, yeah. Oh god, yeah. I would. Like it's funny. Like my dad, like for instance, like my mom's always just been 100% supportive and whatnot.
Hmm.
Like love my mother. She's the best. I like my uh I would listen to my children more.
Right.
I would allow and encourage them to foster their own desires. I would do some things like my dad did. Like he did introduce me to a lot of things that I love still and whatnot. Like um, he showed me and my brother in a TV edited version of the 1982 animated feature film Heavy Metal, which is quite violent and perhaps parts of it are not very appropriate for children.
Hmm.
But that was one good thing about my dad. Like he never hid anything from me and my brother and stuff. Like he always like let us like whatever we wanted basically because like he like showed us like Kevin Smith films
Hmm.
when we were young, and I remember when the film Jackass 2 came out. um you could only see it if you were an adult, and so
Yeah.
my dad goes up to the cat, and my dad loved Jackass, and he like showed me and my brother that, and like showed us the first movie and the TV show. And so when the second movie came out, he took us to the movie theater, and he went up to the ticket office and was like, "Oh hey, yeah, I'll get 3 tickets to Jackass 2." And the cashier's like, "Your kids can't see Jackass 2." He's like, "Oh." So then he just like looks up at like the where the movies are like times are being shown, and he just sees a movie that's starting at the same time. He's like, "Okay, I'll get 3 tickets to that." And then we just walked into Jackass 2, which was the hardest I've ever laughed in a movie theater. That I literally fell out of my seat, rolled on the floor laughing.
I can see why you wanted to be more adult as a kid. Just.
Yeah, no, like that was a constant thing actually. Like I always, I wanted. more respect and whatnot.
Mhm.
Like I mean, I had you have that kind of like idealized idea of what it is to be an adult or be older, like when you're a child, and you don't realize there's things like taxes
Yeah.
and and you have to make money and get a paycheck in order
Mhm.
to afford to live and whatnot. And so like I don't know, I just always had that idealized thing. Like I remember like when I was going through a particular like bout of like I suppose like depression and whatnot, like angst, like when I was about like 13 or whatever, like
Mhm.
maybe 14. I wrote out like this essay and stuff, like just completely vented, like I'm 14, like I wish I was 18, like shit like that. And I wish I kept that so I could read it now, but I threw that
Mhm.
away a long time ago.
Oh, it's all good. I think I can understand at least the emotions behind it, right? Like you literally felt like you were in the wrong age or the wrong body in a way.
Yeah, yeah, kind of like I mean, that's okay. This is a little hokey what I'm
Okay,
going to say now, but
go for it.
I honestly felt that like basically my entire life. Like I almost don't like saying it, but I will because like I don't necessarily fully caught into the idea of past lives,
Mhm.
but when I was 3 years, like beginning when I was like 3 years old, and continuing throughout my childhood, I would have a reoccurring dream, and basically, the dream is there's a massive battle going on, um, in like kind of like a deserty area and whatnot.
Mhm.
And I'm leading like a phalanx of like troops around this hill because my commanders told me like, oh, we believe like the enemy's forces are about to flank us around there. So like you take your forces and go around here so they stop the flank. And we round this like sand dune and stuff, and there's this group of enemy infantry and a war elephant coming
Mhm.
at us. And then there's a fight, and we're victorious, and we're able to bring down the elephant too. And as I'm approaching the platform where the enemy soldiers on the elephant were, one of them springs out and guts me. And my last things is I have a downwards perspective of me like bleeding out while my soldiers are around me, shocked that their seasoned commander is dying. And from the very first time I had that dream, I understood I was a soldier in Alexander the Great's army.
Sorry, did
In
you
this
say you were
dream,
3?
yeah, I was 3 years old when I
Holy
had that dream
crap.
first. Yeah, and I had that repeatedly, like throughout my childhood. I haven't had it for a very long time at this point, but yeah, I don't know. I've always been very cognizant and aware of. I was always able to like understand and pick things up really
Mhm.
quickly, like
Right.
that.
Dude, that's incredible. I don't think even those thoughts went through my head when I was 3. In fact, I have a video of me, um, like learning how to say Bugs Bunny and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles at 3 or 4. So,
Yeah. Well, it's funny. Like, I watched your intro video that you recorded, and good lord, it's almost like it took words out of my mouth in a lot of parts of that. But like my very first career that I ever wanted to have was to be a king.
hmm
And same reason as you, like not for the not for the fame, the wealth, the power,
right.
but to help and assist people. Like, but like I had it planned out when I was like 4, because like I don't know how I knew this, but like I knew that France had like a lot of like islands in the Pacific,
Yeah.
so I would thought like, okay, well, I get older, I can probably like I'll get a bunch of money somehow. I'll proposition to the government of France to sell me one of those islands, and I would then go to that island. I would learn the local customs and like language and whatnot. I would take a local name and like rule as a generous king. Kind of in as I understand it now, like the Plato's idea of a philosopher king and whatnot.
hmm Dude, that's amazing having that at 4. In my head, my brain never went that far. So,
Wow, halfway there anyway.
yeah, there you go. No, that's amazing. Do you still resonate with like helping people then? Is that still something that's an innate desire in you?
It very much is. But at this section of my life, I have to focus on helping myself.
hmm Right. And
Because oop. Continue.
Oh yeah, well, what are the steps you're doing to help yourself then?
It's been kind of difficult given the last 2 years and
Mm,
whatnot. But a few months ago, I got a positive diagnosis for PTSD and whatnot, and
mhm,
so kind of working on stuff in regards to that and whatnot. I since high school, I've not had a particular easy go of things. I'll
mhm.
say that much.
Uh, are,
Mostly self-inflicted, but
yeah, well, are you comfortable talking about some of that stuff, or?
oh, it's certainly it's important to be open and whatnot about things like that. But I've struggled with addictions like my entire adult life,
Mhm.
basically,
That
and it's several different ones.
Fair enough. No, that makes sense. That makes sense. Well, I'm glad you're doing things to focus on yourself then, at least that's always a good thing.
Sometimes it feels and it very much is like two steps forward or one step forward, two steps back. But baby steps. Like I'm at where I am at now
Mhm.
is probably the best I've been, even though I have a long way to go and a lot of improvements to make. Like this is the best place I've been. I have my own apartment, for
Yeah.
instance, now
Mhm.
and whatnot, and that I pay for every month and everything. Um, I've 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 been able to kick the drug addictions that I had and
Mhm.
whatnot, which I suppose I could go into that a little bit too, though it's really really dark. I
Mhm.
don't know how dark you would want this to go,
Dude, go
but
wherever you want to. I'm good with anything. Like it's whatever you're comfortable with, really.
well, I mean, okay, one thing like I've learned and stuff, like honest, it's important to be honest with yourself and whatnot with others. Like,
Mhm.
okay, this is going to get really dark. So hey, anyone listening, if you don't want to be, if you have triggers and whatnot, maybe mute this section.
Mhm.
But gosh, like this is kind of hard to tell people. But I first intravenously used heroin when I was 18,
Mhm.
and I was addicted to heroin for oh 7 years, and which of course I was what's known as a high functioning addict because I always had a job and whatnot. Like I was always able to maintain like a certain amount of control over my life and whatnot. And like that part of my life was very segmented off from the rest of my life.
Right.
Like I had like my drug friends, and that was it, and whatnot. Like there were the loose connections to some aspects of my life and whatnot. Um, when it came to heroin, and anyway, like when I went through my cocaine problem, the lines were a little bit more blurred there because
Mhm.
cocaine and the heavy metal community are so intertwined. Like it's ridiculous. You couldn't go to a party basically if you didn't get like 60 bag or 100 bag
Yeah.
and whatnot to bring with you
Mhm.
or to a show. But and it was like kind of like it was very much normalized to a certain extent because like everyone was doing coke all the time.
Yeah, that sounds incredibly difficult. I never thought about it that way, that your friends suddenly evolve into people that are like, I guess, making the addiction even more acceptable in a way, right?
Yeah, I suppose. And like, well, I don't know. Like, these people were already doing like my heavy metal community friends for the most part were already doing that like when I got in and whatnot. And like I I don't know. There's something like I told myself when I was younger,
Hmm.
very young, like oh god, like again, like probably when I was 12, it's like never deny yourself an experience,
Mm.
regardless of what it is. And like I was like as a kid, like I was always the kid who I was told the stove is hot when it's red, but I had to touch it to make sure.
Yeah. Hmm.
And like you hear like all the various like documentaries and whatnot about addiction and whatnot.
Yeah.
Um, and I told myself, well, if I got to know, I have to see. And
Hmm.
then I knew and I saw. And yeah, from my 18 to let's say 28. I'm 29 now. there's a lot of interesting chapters in my biography for
Yeah,
those years.
yeah, no kidding.
I've been in a lot of very interesting situations and scenarios, let's
Yeah.
say, and and a big thing that you learn and stuff, especially when you're in amongst it, is how how deep and complex and interesting people can be.
Hmm. Yeah, no kidding, eh?
Yeah, no, a skill I learned very early on was listening,
Yeah.
and it is always better to listen than to talk. And so I met a lot of fascinating people.
Hmm.
In fact, like I would argue, like some of the most intelligent people I've ever met in my life, and some of the most creative as well. But because of various reasons, their lives were kind of just completely destroyed by drugs. And like I'm fortunate that I was able to like kind of fight and claw my way out of that. Like I quit heroin cold turkey, which is insane, and it's very hard to do, but I did it. Like, oh, that was tough. But
Dude,
and
I'm
then,
I'm so impressed right now. It's not even that's amazing.
well, I don't know. I'd be more impressed if I was doing something with my life.
I think that's just like that's how it goes, right? It just takes a while to, like you said, to one step forward, two steps back, right? And
Yeah,
and frankly, what you did is something that most people, or like a lot of people, would not be able to do in itself, right? So that's like a huge achievement. It doesn't matter how you got there. The fact that you're here now is, to
true
me,
enough.
more
True
important.
enough. Yeah, well, it's just like I don't know. I don't want to say that every addict gets to this point
Yeah,
because generalizations are the bane of most things. I find.
I agree with you
Um,
wholeheartedly.
there, there's a line in the movie Train Spotting, which is about heroin addicts in Scotland in the early '90s. It's where you either choose life or you choose heroin, and I got to the point where I I wanted to choose heroin, and and actually all oh my god, like oh that was so fucking dark. Um, like I have overdosed 12 times, four enough required hospitalization that be revived through Narcan. About um, six of those other times, and then I was also brought back with just plain old mouth-to-mouth resuscitation.
Hmm.
And I remember my first ambulance trip to the hospital, of which there were four. The nurses who were, or the paramedics who were attending me, told me that I was I was the politest heroin overdose they'd ever dealt with. It's not necessarily something you want to claim, but you know, at least I wasn't the rudest.
Like, you know what? It tells me that it did not change the core part of you, right? Because I've always seen you as like a loving, caring person, right? So it's
I try to be more or less you know, um, uh, I was never raised. I was never in a. I like to joke. I was raised in a strictly atheist household. But the one thing from the Bible, treat others how you want to be treated yourself,
yeah.
which always is extremely like that makes complete sense.
Hmm.
Like and yeah, yeah.
And you know
But
what? Mhm.
nope, nope, go.
I was just gonna say, and I think that's one of the um interesting things about religion, right? No matter what you're looking at it as, right? Like as a spiritual guidebook, as you know, your entire identity or whatnot. There's always going to be certain things in there that resonate with everyone and people can use, right? Because otherwise, it wouldn't have lasted as long as it currently has.
Yeah, like it's funny, because though I was baptized when I was five,
Mhm.
Lutheran, that's my father's side, grandparents. I did get baptized when I was five, but like I was like, and like I got taught like some basic prayers like by my grandpa when I was a little kid. So, but apart from that, like I was like my childhood and whatnot was basically completely devoid of religion,
Mhm.
and which is an interesting knock-on effect that now I've always had a kind of a fascination with religions and whatnot.
Yeah.
Um, faiths across the board, like ancient faiths, modern faiths, and whatnot. And like for instance, like like when I was in high school and a little bit into my early 20s, and everything else kind of took over.
Mhm.
I practiced. Oh gosh, I'm gonna butcher the pronunciation, but it's Aristotle,
Mhm.
which is basically a reconstruction of ancient Norse religion and
Mhm.
whatnot. Like I would perform like again going to butcher the pronunciation, but bolts, which are basically simple sacrifices and whatnot. And like one time I even did what's known as a sword bending ceremony, which is one of the most um, oh, like one of the most important things you can do, basically, because
That's
you're
cool.
you take a blade. Like I had like about a 12-inch like dagger,
Yeah.
and I took it into Weaselhead natural area, and I said my words to the gods, and I ceremonially bent the blade in half and tossed it into the river. And I did that because it sounded like a very good friend of mine was going to go to jail for a good long while,
Yeah.
and he got it, and he didn't. So make of that what you will.
There you go. I love that.
Yeah, and that's something I'm planning on getting back into
Mhm.
here soon and stuff, because I'm always a spiritual person and whatnot, and I do want and desire a certain amount of spirituality in my life.
Mhm. And you know what? It's funny. I was having a conversation with someone recently about this. How I feel like there's a lot of people out there that do the same things that spiritual people do, but they never identify with spirituality or religion. In fact, they're like super hardcore atheists sometimes, right?
Oh yes, and some I absolutely hate what I term evangelical atheists,
Right.
who feel the need that they need to preach and they need to spread the gospel of atheism and whatnot to the
Hmm.
world, as if how dare you be a believer? Uh,
Yeah.
I will strike you down because there's nothing else to do it. Um, and
Sorry.
I don't.
No, no, go for it. Go for it.
It's gone in the wind.
I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt your
No,
train
that's
of thought
fine.
there. One of my questions to you, if feel free not to answer this if this is like weird. Um, so
I'm an open book.
Oh yeah, okay, fair. I'm seeing that. I really am. So you had the strong family values, and you had some level of spirituality that you were interested in, and then I don't know. From the sounds of it, you seem like a very reflective person, right? Like you're always thinking about yourself. That's why you had like that
Yes,
age
very much
thing.
so.
Yeah,
Like I've spent a large chunk of my life and time by myself. So.
exactly. Yeah. Well, I mean, I would. Sorry, this is off topic now, but I would argue that people spending time by themselves, right? That's not necessarily being introspective, right? Because you got to have further thoughts than that to actually like figure
Yes,
yourself out.
yeah. You can't just sit there and whatnot and like watch television or whatnot. Like you have to
Yes.
actively sit and think.
Yeah, to think about what's going on around you, how it relates to you
Yeah,
and stuff.
that's like it's sounds a little like neurotic and stuff, but like I may be crazy even, but like I have conversations with myself, because like another great skill of mine is I've always been able to put myself in other people's shoes,
Mm-hmm.
and understand, even if I don't believe, even if I fundamentally disagree and don't believe
Mm-hmm.
in someone's point of view or belief, I can usually understand why they came to believe or think what they believe and think.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and so I'm able to like kind of have the certain amount of dialogues, work through things like that.
Sorry, I'm laughing because to me
No,
you're
no,
just describing high EQ, like you have an incredibly high level of emotional intelligence. That's how I
I
see
was wondering
EQ.
what that meant.
Yeah, no, no, that's right. That's my definition of EQ. I think everyone has their own like twist
I
and
just I heard EQ. I heard that before, and I have no idea what that is.
to me that's what it is. It's being able to take yourself out of yourself and then critically
Hmm.
think of the decisions and stuff you've done in your whole life. And then the second part of it is applying, and the most important part of it is applying it to other people. And then the difficulty is exactly what you're talking about, is that we all have our own preconceived notions of how people
Hmm.
should be or the way that they act and how what's right and wrong. So and we don't tend to do it based on the people in front of us. We tend to do it based on ourselves and our own experiences. But a person with a
Yeah.
high level of EQ should theoretically be able to do it through the eyes of the other person and through what they're
Yeah.
going through.
I mean, I feel like that's the building blocks of like understanding and having a real conversation with someone.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like
And
like I'm able to like I have friends all over the political spectrum from
mhm.
the left to the right, and like I can have a level headed and decent conversation with anyone.
Dude, you should be hosting this. We need a little.
Well, if you ever need a guest host,
There you go. No, that's amazing, and you know what? That's exactly it. And um, I don't know. For me, like politics and all that stuff, that's one thing. But there's certain
yeah,
beliefs
is
as
it
well.
ever?
Yeah, like, but there's certain beliefs and stuff. Like, I don't know. Like, you were talking about your dad and you, right? And that conversation that you had.
Hmm.
Obviously, the stuff that he's saying through love, right? Like, there's no doubt in my mind about that from even what you're saying. Um,
Hmm.
but like to me, even like that parent-child relationship at a certain point needs to reach a certain level of evolution where your child is no longer a child, right? They're a being that's making their own decisions. And a lot of parents have difficulty seeing that because they have.
Oh, it's almost impossible because they spent all that time with you as a little child.
Exactly, and this is like a more extreme example, but it's like that dynamic of that relationship, right? It has to evolve at some point, and eventually it's going to happen where they start becoming more friends and stuff. And if it doesn't, that can either have its own benefits or other problems, right? And that's a-okay depending on who you are.
Yeah,
But
and that's kind of and thankfully, like after years of like somewhat turmoil and whatnot, and anger and frustration on my part,
yeah,
that's kind of where I've gotten to with my dad and stuff. And I have to say, working with him for 7 years,
yes,
uh, certainly helps. Like yeah, like at work and stuff, like we're able to like joke and bullshit and whatnot.
yeah,
And like and fundamentally, like me and my dad have like the same taste in a lot of things. Like
hmm
I did get like a lot of my likes and this or I don't know taste in things from him and whatnot. He was the initial building blocks of like my appreciation for music and whatnot.
hmm
Like he got me into classic rock. Like my dad listens to a lot of classic rock and whatnot. And actually, in fact, like my earliest memory is listening to my favorite band, who's well, it's now my favorite band, but like my earliest memory is sitting in my dad's car listening to music,
that's amazing.
and I remember the song. In fact, it's "Love Bites" by Judas Priest, and I was about 3 years old, sitting in my dad's car, parked out in front of my grandparents' house because my dad had to go grab something for me. And I'm just sitting there, and I'm like, "This is a good song. I like this."
Dude, you had a lot of good experiences that you still remember for 3 years old. That's like so
Yeah,
impressive.
I actually like I have a fairly decent memory and stuff, especially when it comes to like childhood and like youth and whatnot.
Hmm
Like every once in a while, the only people I really still regularly talk to, even maybe regularly is exaggeration.
Yeah.
People from that time, like I still regularly talk to, like Lucas, Chris, Eric, Campbell as well, and they're always like amazed that I could remember such inane bullshit that happened at CSS and whatnot.
Yeah, actually, I'm kind of the same in a way. I think I was telling you my first memory of you, right? Was like,
Which I'm ashamed. I don't remember the first time we met.
no, no, I absolutely remember because I got to a new school. I sat down beside you, right? And you know, it's scary. I think this is why I remember because it's kind of scary at the same time,
Which
right?
grade was it?
Grade six. This is in grade six.
Okay, what's six? Okay.
Yeah, and I sat down next to you, and you spent the whole time talking about your best friend Millen, right? And you're like you were
Yeah,
talking him up and stuff, and frankly, that relaxed me a little bit because I'm like, oh, I get to meet this cool guy in a few days.
I'm glad I was there to help. Yeah, I know. Like, no, I had in a lot of ways, like, I had a lot of fun. I had a very good childhood, growing up there in Lakeview and stuff. With Milan especially, like Milan was, yeah, like one of my best friends. Him, Keith, another guy, was one of my best friends. Jake, when we were children, anyway. Less
Yeah.
so later, but when he decided he was too cool to hang out with us anymore. Um, which I don't know, buddy, give your head a shake.
Dude, that's one of the difficulties with childhood, right? Because like we're growing so much as kids that we just grow apart, but none of us have really found ourselves. So we find ourselves in other people and the things that
No,
they're doing.
and yeah, like that's the thing they don't warn you is, hey, time just keeps getting faster, and there isn't this magical line you cross where, oh, I'm an adult now.
Yeah.
No,
No, dude, there's people in their 50s. They're not adults.
yeah, no, exactly. No, no, like an adult is just a kid who has to pay taxes.
Yeah, well, I mean, a part of me never wants to lose my inner child either, right? Because there's just such a
Yeah,
beauty to
same.
it. Yeah. No, no,
Like I very much still always want to have a certain amount of I don't know, idle fantasy, I suppose.
Hey, what's the idle fantasy of?
Oh, just like I don't know, just having hope and whatnot, like thinking that I'm ultimately going to make something and do something.
I'm sure you will.
Hopefully,
Hey, I have no doubt, dude. Oh, you will
yeah.
get that island, dude, and then you will be a king.
I hope so. I hopefully I've learned that despite loving linguistics and language, actually, like it's a little bit of a hobby of mine, researching languages,
Oh, that's
especially
so
ancient
cool.
languages.
Hmm.
Um, I'm terrible at learning languages. Like I've had tried to learn Norwegian about 3 different times. I did take 2 years of German in
Hmm.
high school,
Yeah.
and ja, ich spreche Deutsch, aber mein Deutsch nicht so gut. Um,
Man, that's so cool.
I know, like dumb phrases and stuff I can whip out and like impress people. And like
Mhm.
anytime I've ever met a German, they just keel over laughing. Like let's say I meet a lovely lady at a bar and try to impress. Oh, I speak German. Oh, was ist wie Hauptstadt von der Schweiz?
Oh, dude.
Wh- Oh, God,
How
I wish
often?
I could remember.
I gotta ask, how
I wish
often
I
has
could
that
remember
worked?
more.
Oh, it's all good. How often has that
Uh,
worked?
well, I don't know. Like I have a pretty good upfront spiel, I'll
Mhm.
say. But like for instance, what I just said, was ist die Hauptstadt von der Schweiz? That's what's the capital of Switzerland?
Hey, so I gotta ask. Okay, sorry, this is like just going into like the relationship aspect of it all. Like, are you looking to find love right now, or are you looking to just explore and stuff, or is this even a priority? Are you still self-focused on the things that you're doing?
I mean, I've been desperately chasing after love since I was 4. So
So you're romantic for sure.
yeah, yeah, no, like I read like a lot of like Lord Byron and shit when I was in junior high and
Sorry, what's
whatnot. Like
who's Lord Byron? I'm sorry, I'm not aware of
oh,
this.
Lord Byron, he wrote like a lot of like romantic like poetry in like the
Mhm.
early 1800s and whatnot. He's
Ah,
quite famous. He actually died in Greece fighting for Greek independence because he was also a romantic. He was one of the founders of the Romanticism
okay.
like movement and whatnot. But oh shoot, my mind got away from me there.
No, you were saying that you read a lot of Lord Byron in grade
Oh
nine.
yes,
You're
okay, yeah,
romantic.
and I also I always like loved like romantic comedies and
Mm.
whatnot. Like two of my favorite movies are Love Actually, and I say this is my favorite movie. Um, it's kind of half a joke, but I'm kind of actually half serious. But it's the 2004 smash hit starring Paul Bettany and Kirsten Dunst, Wimbledon.
Wimbledon. I have not seen that one. I'm gonna write that down.
No one has, except for me and 40-year-old women.
Well, I'm actually also a closet romantic in regards to, I love watching the random chick flicks and stuff, especially when I'm sad.
Yeah,
So,
oh, that's like oh, this happened in in grade, I don't know, maybe 8 or something, maybe 9. Me and Keaton were to Colin May's house, who was another good friend of mine from CSS.
mhm,
And we were in his basement and stuff, and we were playing like Xbox and video games. But like, I don't know, drinking way too much caffeinated beverages, eating too many chips. But I discovered one of his like mother's like romance novels, and so as a joke, I just started like reading it out loud, like to the guys and whatnot, and we're like ha 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 and stuff. But then I kind of got into it. And it's like, oh, this is actually kind of a really lovely story. Oh,
I don't know why I saw a YouTube clip of a guy like he was like that's right, actually this is from the other guys, where he like to mock all the people he was bullying, he used to like learn how to dance and things like that, and then throughout the movie like he was like, oh, I can dance really well and things like that. He's like just doing it to make fun of people, but he became a master, right?
oh yeah, I know that irony is the most dangerous thing on the planet.
Yeah, no, 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 there's a certain beauty to that. I really like that. So how have you been pursuing love as of late then?
Mostly by not.
Oh, okay.
Um, yeah, no. Like after trying to like make things work and whatnot, like when I was very much not well,
Hmm.
I recognize like I need to focus on fostering a love for myself,
Mm.
and and getting to the point, just kind of now it's difficult to articulate this. But like I just like I need to work on myself
Yeah.
more first, and like I've wrecked like enough like relationships at this point to know that,
Hmm.
and yeah, just it's not fair. It's not only not fair to myself, but it's not fair to the other person.
Hmm. No, no, I got you. Basically, you need to find yourself or your, I guess the best version of you that you deem fit enough for the people around you,
Yeah,
because you're
and,
currently
and,
not.
and of course, like another thing I also have to recognize is I'm never going to be satisfied with myself
Yeah.
fully anyway. But at least if I can, especially like I'm planning, which actually it might be happening a little quicker than I wanted to
Hmm.
because of some news I found out today. But like I'm trying to switch careers and whatnot, and like that's going to be a big thing for me
Hmm.
and whatnot. Like finally, like I've been a plumber for 7 years, but like I could go. I've never gone to safe though. Like I could go challenge. I could easily go challenge, like first year, second year, third year, fourth year, without like all I have to do is brush myself up on code, and I could do it no problem.
Yeah.
But oh god, even the faintest idea of being a plumber for the rest of my life is so horrifying. I don't even want to consider it. Like
Yeah.
it's just a job, and it's just been like an easy job basically for me because like I worked for my dad and whatnot, especially when I was still living at home.
Yeah.
Like
Hmm.
my boss woke me up in the morning, um, but like it's never I've never had any. Well, I guess there's been times when I have taken some pride, some joy in it, and whatnot.
Yeah.
Especially when I use my expertise to go and help friends and whatnot with their problems,
Mm.
which I quite enjoy and is really rewarding. It's also going to be really nice the rest of my life. I'm never going to have to call a plumber, or I know exactly when I do want to call a plumber because I'm like I don't want to deal with that. Um, but yeah, like like I just want to be kind of more stable in a lot of ways aspects of my life,
No, that makes
and
a lot of sense.
I'm just not quite there.
Do you mind if I ask? So, like you said, like plumbing was sort of forced on you, and you've been doing it for like 7 years. What gave you that like aha moment? It's time to change something, to like focus on a new career or that. Did you like have to figure out what that new career looked like, or was it something else that like resonated?
And that has always been a major problem actually for me throughout my
Hmm.
life. Is like I've heard like people like come out of like high school stuff like, oh, I don't know what I want to do, whereas I came out like, oh god, I want to do too many things. Like, and it's just like it was just kind of like a constant struggle,
Mhm,
um, to focus on a passion or something I'm interested in or something I enjoy. Like it was just I couldn't like
mhm,
or just there's so many things that interest me, like so many things I love and I'm passionate about. Like I could never just direct the full force of my being or self towards one goal. And like well at the point like I've got like I've been thinking about like this majorly for like the last like 2 years, and just before like COVID and shit hit actually, um like the realization that okay and that I want to like okay I want a career and stuff and like I recognize like I want to have pick a career and stuff that is something I can be interested in and
mhm.
passionate about, whereas I can still allow time and like resources and stuff to continue my other hobbies and like other passions and desires and whatnot.
Yeah.
And so, like I've decided like that I maybe the military might be the direction for
Mhm.
my life. Like my uncle was well, my I have there's quite a bit of like military service in my family system on my dad's side, especially because like my great grandfather fought in the Second World War. He was like 37 when he signed up, or like 36 or something like that. He was
Wow.
like a lot older than most
Mhm.
volunteers,
Yeah.
and then like he was in the artillery and stuff, and like commanded an artillery um, uh, gosh, like a couple of artillery guns and whatnot. And he was also a forward observer for a time. And then my grandfather was in the Naval Reserve for 19 years. And
Mhm.
my uncle he was in the Coast Guard, the Navy, the Air Force, and then back to the Navy, or in the back to the Navy. And like he ended his career like being charged of like recruitment for like Southern Ontario
Yeah.
or
Mhm.
something like that. So like I'm actually going to be going over to his place hopefully on Sunday, and I'm going to be like picking his brain about like the application process and all that. And he basically told me on the phone, I was like, "Yeah, don't worry, I'll give you a cheat sheet."
I love that.
Yeah,
But I love how your family dynamic works. It keeps going forward through all of this, right? So that's
yeah.
amazing.
Oh, it's actually like yeah, it's kind of a Myrtle bug, I guess, to be interested because the same uncle I'm talking about um, actually did a genealogical research of the family name Myrtle,
Yeah.
and he found them all. There's like about like we can accurately trace the Mirtle like Mirtle spelling to a William Mirtle who lives in Galashiels
Yeah.
in
Mhm.
southern Scotland in like the 1600s.
Mhm.
And like in the moment, there's about 250 of us spread across the world. There's a bunch of us up in here in Canada. There's like even more in South Africa, and then there's some in Australia, and New Zealand spread around, and still some in England and Scotland as well.
Out of curiosity, did a lot of your family like did they all pursue different paths in their lives in regards to where they're ending up, or is it fairly consistent in regards
Yep.
to?
No,
Oh,
it's scattered to the wind, basically. Like when it comes to career choices, like for instance, like my dad was kind of like a lazy pothead and whatnot when he was young. Like I said, like he worked seismic in the winters,
yeah.
and then he collected employment insurance in the summers. Whereas then, like my uncle became like an officer, and then my aunt became like an environmental lawyer. Um, yeah,
That's so cool, dude. That's like you guys probably have like a um what's the word here? Like a brain pool of worldly things. It just
well, I have everyone apart from my dad, but
fair enough. Well, I mean, even he has his expertise in plumbing, right? Because
yeah, I suppose it's you know they're always going you know as long as there's civilization, people are going to need plumbers.
exactly, exactly, right? Like
You know?
that's the beauty of the trades.
Oh yes, the subtle beauty of plumbing.
It's not all shitty, right? So,
No, well, I don't know. You only need to know two things. As a joke I heard when I first
yeah.
started, you only need to know two things as a plumber: the hot taps on the left and shit rolls downhill.
The second one I've heard before.
Yeah, Maybe
Although,
not applied literally though.
well, I heard that one because I'm the youngest in my family. And
Oh.
so, you know that cycle of like anger, right? It goes like down, and then my dad used to joke around, "You're the youngest there, but it's always gonna end up on you." And leave no one to release it on. I'm
Oh
like,
yeah.
ah, that's true.
Well, as an older brother myself, I can confirm that's true.
Fair enough. Hey, out of curiosity, do you want to stay in Canada for the rest of your life, or would you consider like going back to your roots and like
Oh
exploring that more?
God, like when I was a teenager and stuff, like my goal, my dream was to move to Norway and
Hmm.
whatnot. And I don't know if I'll ever have the opportunity to, but like I would absolutely like be over the moon and love to like live in Norway or Scotland for that matter. Like Norway is the most beautiful place I've ever been.
Yeah.
Like when I went there as a kid, when I was 14, we one part of it was we went on a 2 day hike
Hmm.
along this. It's called the Bessican Ridge. It's a 2 day hike, and it's very famous in Norway. Norwegian national playwright Henrik Ibsen, the climax of his most famous play, Peer Gynt, takes place at the Beskin Ridge, where the titular Peer rides a reindeer into the water. And at the second day, like 2/3 of the way through the second day of the hike, you get to kind of the peak of it,
Hmm.
and it like, oh my God, it's taking the breath from me now just remembering it. It was the most beautiful sight I've ever seen in my life. It was like a painting. I'm
Wow.
standing up on this ridge, and on my right, there's this beautiful, pristine glacial lake, deepest blue I'd ever seen. And then on my left is this deep and wide, vast fjord and stuff stretching hundreds and hundreds of feet down and whatnot. It's beautiful valley, and like the clouds, it was kind of cloudy, and like the sun was just breaking through the clouds and whatnot. Like you could see the God rays and whatnot, and like I was like, I'm pretty sure I teared up. It was absolutely breathtaking. Like that will be the last thing I think when I die. Probably because it was just it was like looking at poetry
Yeah.
in nature. And then I remember at the end of that hike, then I had to learn how to play mahjong, which was an experience.
What's mahjong?
Check like the Chinese mahjong. Oh God.
Sorry, dude, I'm not
Yeah,
cultured, as you can
yeah,
tell.
no, Chinese not checkers, shoot, domino kind of things, like the
Oh yeah.
very
Hmm. I think I know what you're talking about.
yeah.
Yeah.
Which like I had just been on like a 14-hour hike and I was absolutely exhausted, and now I have to sit here with my 10-year-old and like 8-year-old cousin and like my elderly relatives and whatnot, trying to play mahjong while all I want to do is go to sleep.
That's a beautiful experience. I'm sure they're gonna remember that for the rest of their lives, right? So,
Oh, I certainly will anyway.
yeah, there you go. There you go. Well, I mean, you're remembering things from 3 years old, so there's no way you'll forget.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
I gotta be careful what I say to you.
Oh, don't worry, it's gotten a lot. Mary's got a lot worse for.
I don't believe you. But thank you. I appreciate the, consideration there. Okay. I guess the other thing that I was really curious about based on everything that you said was, in regards to, so you've been into like heavy metal and you've been into
Mhm.
traveling, you love history. Um, it's hard to like,
Well, I like linguistics too, and geography, and also like vexillology. I could go on.
oh Jesus. Oh, so literally your hobbies are just coming from open-minded experiences, then like you're just willing on keeping trying.
I always have to be learning something. I always have to know more. And even if I'm just reviewing things I've already, I have to constantly. I got to keep this thing sharp.
Jeez, dude,
And
that's
the only and
amazing.
the, and the only way to do that is to continually grind that blade.
Okay,
And so,
Sorry. Going back to it then, like you know what we were talking about because you want kids in the future and stuff. You talked about your dad and how there's a lot of stuff that he did which you would follow through with your kids, right? Which was like the
Yeah.
communication. Um, would you also encourage them towards like similar hobbies and stuff, or would it be
I,
let them flow?
I would present them with the things that I like and
Hmm.
love and whatnot. Like um, like I'm going to be eternally grateful for the rest of my life that my dad gave me a copy of Lord of the Rings when I was 10. Like I will show them like my hobbies and my interests and my loves and passions and whatnot.
Hmm.
And if they want, if they like and music and whatnot, and if they enjoy it, then I will support that. If they don't, I'll support that.
Mm. And for
Like
your
I'll expose them to it, but I won't force them.
okay. And then is there anything else that you would or would not do now, like based on everything you know about your own childhood and how you've been raised and seeing the positives and the negatives, is there anything else that you would like want to do with your kids to make them, I guess, to help mold them in a certain way, or would it just be like a free flow? Sorry, I normally ask this question as though like, you know, if you were in the past, how would you do it differently? But I'm more curious about what you would tell your kids based on your experience, because to me that sounds.
Well, like I would listen to them and whatnot. I would I would yeah, I would listen to them. It was like at a young age, like I learned to like never go to my dad with a problem because like a lot of times I just wanted to have a discussion
Mhm.
about something and like maybe have him help me find a way that I could do something myself. Whereas
Mm,
my dad would just say, "Okay, you do this. Okay,
right.
do this, do that," and stuff. And like my dad is one of those unfortunate people who believes himself to be the smartest person in the room, despite being literally the least educated.
Gotta love that pride though, right?
Oh gosh, yeah, and I get a little bit of it, but
Yeah. And then the other part of that is for because like you said, you're romantic and you're still trying to figure certain aspects of yourself out right now, so you feel like, you know, so you can start pursuing that stuff again, or before you start
hmm
pursuing that stuff again. In regards to that, would you want your partner to be someone that has gone through similar experiences as you, or are you looking for like, do you know what you're looking for in regards to that? Because the reason I ask is because as someone who's been a romantic their whole life, right? Like I feel like there would be some level of this is what I'm looking for in a relationship that comes through from that. I
like
might be wrong.
fundamentally, like I want someone who's just as curious and hungry for knowledge as I am, like someone who constantly needs to constantly needs more and stuff and needs to expand their knowledge and like and passions and
Mm.
whatnot. Like, oops, sorry, I dropped my
Oh,
phone there for a
all
second.
good.
But it's I don't know. It's almost it's kind of difficult for me almost because I've been so I was for the largest parts of my life just so desperate for love. Like I would just take like anything that was even thrown at me,
Mm.
and which like led to like some relationships that were just like wastes of time fundamentally.
Yeah. So has that changed now in regards to like, are you more, I guess, picky in regards to who you would want to
I,
be with?
uh, I mean, I like it, that's it's honestly that's one of the hardest instincts for me to fight.
Mm.
And like I've thankfully you get kicked in the teeth enough times you learn to avoid the boot. But um,
Sorry, I love that.
yeah, I'm full of witticisms and quotes and whatnot.
Mhm.
But yeah, I'm more I know to go against my poor judgment more so these days.
Mm. That's awesome, and I guess it's one of the risks of always being open-minded, right? Because like if you're always open-minded to experiences and people, then there will be
Yeah.
situations which are not so.
Yep. And oh yeah, and you probably don't realize it until it's too late.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. But I mean, even from all of those experiences, it seems like you've learned like so much about yourself and the people around you and how to relate to all of that. Like there's a beauty in that, right?
I mean, and like I don't know, like I don't think you ever truly find yourself or whatever. It's a constant search.
Yeah,
Like life is the search for yourself,
yeah,
and
yeah.
you only get there at the end.
Exactly. I mean, I always look at it as you find yourself in that moment, and as long as you're willing on learning and,
Yeah,
continuously evolving.
that's it's like something I very fundamentally and very strongly believe. It's like perfection or like utopia. It's fundamentally unattainable, but you should constantly strive for it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, why not put your whole heart into something, right? Like if you're gonna try it anyways. But
Yeah.
although time is finite and we live a finite life, so like that's
Oh God, I know.
like
I
we're
wish we just could I just pause it for like just 1 year. Just give me a year. Just one.
would that be your superpower? Just time freeze. And then
Yeah. Okay. Like oh God. Okay. Now I can actually dig into proto Indo European languages and stuff and like trying to figure out the uh never anyway.
oh no,
Oop.
oh, no, no. Sorry, I was just gonna drink. So,
Oh okay.
no, that's amazing. Well, Brock, I think we've covered like a lot of like this was a lot of fun. Like I really enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you had any closing thoughts for the people like listening to this.
Um. Just remember that every other person you see and every other person you interact with is a human being. At some point in their life, they've laughed. At some point in life, they've cried. Just remember that.
I love that. That's beautiful, and I think a lot of people can relate to that. Again, thank you
I
so
hope
much
so.
for coming on to this.
Thank
I know,
you.
yeah, sorry it took us a little bit of time to actually book this, but
Good things come to those who wait.